And we're live. Oh, man. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Wow. This has been a long time coming. Unbelievable. Okay, so seeing as this is my first video, I think the correct way to start this would be to introduce myself, tell you who I am and what I'm doing here. So, my name is Farhan, also known as Gunner Since 96. This is my YouTube channel. The reason why I've started a YouTube channel is because I'm an Arsenal fanatic. I'm a massive Arsenal fan. Have been ever since I can remember. And this channel is basically dedicated to all things Arsenal. What I'm going to do is hopefully, we'll see how long this goes on for, as in the channel. And this video, actually, because this is the first one, so I'm going to waffle a lot. But as I was mentioning or saying, that's the right word, saying, not mentioning. Wow, waffling already. As I was saying, this channel is going to be dedicated to all things Arsenal. And basically, what I've planned is to release two types of content. One, looking ahead to, so as the title says below, looking ahead to Arsenal's following game, which in this case is against West Brom, and I will be releasing a video not straight after the game but a day after the game, so I can talk through the press conference, what Arteta had to say about the results, talk briefly about the performance, and I don't know what else actually. I've only gone as far as to plan this video here today, right now. But I also have a podcast as well called the Arsenal Therapy Podcast, which I do. I also release the next day, but I record it straight after the game. So actually a couple hours after the game, so I can digest everything, get my thoughts on the mic, and then it's released the following morning, 8 a.m. sharpish. So that's me. That's this channel, and today what we're going to do, as the video says, we're going to look ahead to the next game, which is West Brom against Arsenal. And what I'm going to talk about first is, oh, actually, hold on a minute. Happy New Year. It's the 1st of January. Happy New Year. I hope you guys all have a blessed 2021, because 2020 was a piss take. And so we really want to make this year count, because last year was just a madness. And I know everyone took some L's and everyone, suffered one way or another. But hopefully this year we will be back at the top. I was never at the top, but hopefully we can get to the top. This year we can make a start, definitely. I'm going to start off by talking about Mikel Arteta's press conference, because I think it's important to see what his frame of mind is like going ahead into this game. He spoke about a couple of things, couple of important things. And first thing we should mention is that there's not going to be a circuit break. Initially, most people thought that there would be a 2-week circuit break because of the COVID cases, the outbreak of the cases at certain football clubs like Fulham. Is it Fulham? I know Newcastle have problems. The Fulham game did get cancelled. I think Fulham do have some cases of their own. And obviously those locked down the road who no one really cares about. So, whatever. But there won't be a circuit break, which means football will continue. It seemed as if Arteta wanted that. It seemed as if he was quite keen to just keep going with the flow. And I personally think that if there needs to be a circuit break, there needs to be a circuit break. What we don't want is to prolong this thing, is to keep taking risks, for the problem to get worse, and then to have a repeat of what happened during lockdown 1, which was football disappearing for so long, and really us going into a mental breakdown. So if there needs to be if there needs to be a circuit break, fine, 2 weeks, we can handle that. That's fine. But so far, it seems like things haven't escalated to that point where we need to. One of the main issues that or one of the main questions that most fans were quite reluctant to get the answer to was Saka. I know that he looked fine at the end of the game, but you never know what the actual problem could be until obviously they properly assess it the next day. So it was good to hear that Saka should be fine. It seemed, judging by what Arteta said, it seemed like he's okay. It seemed like the worst thing that could be is maybe a bruise or something, maybe some muscular pain. They did have a good couple of days, at least 3 to 4 days of rest before West Brom, so hopefully he should be okay. And he also mentioned that Saka's been playing a lot of minutes, which he has, but he is our best player at the minute. He is the guy that's delivering the goods. He is the guy on top form right now. He is the guy that everyone's looking towards to grind out a result. So whether he will start on the bench or not is unclear. I'm sort of inclined to say that I think Arteta will start him on the bench because he probably doesn't want to risk overplaying him, overdoing it. He's still very, very young. So I don't know. We'll find out in about 24 hours whether he starts or not. Arteta did speak about West Brom themselves, the 2 performances that they had previously against Liverpool, and they got battered by Leeds. Liverpool, they did an amazing job to grind out a draw, and I don't know what happened against Leeds, but they just got outplayed, making too many mistakes at the back, similar to what Arsenal do, really. And it seemed like Arteta's clued up and he knows the style that Allardyce will play. And we'll talk a little bit about how I think they will play and how I think we should set up. But it's good to see Arteta clued up, and he's in that frame of mind of knowing what to do and how to set up, and certainly at least expect what type of game that they'll bring. I think we all know what kind of game they'll bring. It's going to be a really, really tough game. But again, let me not get into that just yet. Let's talk about a few more points that Arteta spoke about. Again, loads of praise to Saka, and he spoke about how Saka takes on the responsibility when he's on the pitch to make things happen when things aren't going our way. And that was quite interesting to hear, because it was, I don't want to say it was almost as if, but it sounded like, what he was trying to say, in other words, is that we've got this 19-year-old, I'm pretty sure he's 19-year-old kid who's leading the line, and what you would expect your senior players to be doing is what a 19-year-old is doing single-handedly. So I don't want to say it's a dig at the senior players, but it can just show, really. It just shows and highlights the underperformers at a club right now. We have these players on really, really big wages, senior players who have all the experience in the world but aren't able to put in the kind of effort, lack the kind of motivation to do certain things in the pitch. And so it was quite interesting to listen to him talk about Saka in that kind of way. Most importantly, I think one of the main highlighting things that he said at the press conference was transfers. So today is the first day that the market has opened up for a month. So we'll be seeing a lot of players leave and a lot of players come in. We've already seen Kolasinac leave. He's on loan at Schalke for the next 6 months. Whether that will be made into a permanent deal is something that we'll just have to wait and see, because obviously, ultimately this will all we'll be able to see whether this will be permanent or not based on performances, based on where they finish in the league as well, and other factors. So it's great that he's out of the club, out of a club that wasn't, using him, where he wasn't being utilised, where he didn't feel valued. So, I'm happy that Arsenal have done that piece of business really, really early. That's great. But now, we need to kick on and start to deal with other things like the question with Mustafi. You've got so many centre backs at the club that I seem to have lost count. Saliba as well. So again, we'll get into the transfer stuff and my thoughts on those things. But what I really enjoyed about one thing I really enjoyed, and that built that little bit more confidence in him from me, was him talking about Arsenal's DNA and what we're known for doing in the past, especially in the Wenger days, which is bringing the youngsters through the reserves into the senior team and creating superstars. And it was really refreshing to hear his response to about nurturing players, developing them in the right way. And he has been saying this for a good few weeks. So it's nice to hear a manager understand and highlight how important it is to not rush young potential superstar players into the first team, not to rush their not to rush their development, not to push them too far into the deep end. So that was really, really good, and it helps because we know, or I certainly know, that these boys will get game time, but most importantly, they will be utilized in the right way. And just because someone is playing really, really well, like Martinelli, Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, Nelson, who's injured, we know from the press conference who's injured, that's why he hasn't been playing lately. These guys, they're not going to be rushed, they're not going to be pushed too hard, because the dangers of doing that, we've seen time and time again what can happen. By doing so, you're potentially risking someone's development. And, we've seen other clubs do it as well. And, I'm just glad that there's someone at the club, a senior member at the club, knows, or at least the way that he spoke about it, gets the right idea of how to get these players going. So I think that was really all the important points. Obviously, I mentioned Reece Nelson is injured. He's picked up a muscular injury, so at least we know that he's not being forced out of the starting 11, or it's not anything to do with his talent or the way that he's training. He has got something. There is a physical injury problem which he's dealing with. He should be back soon. So obviously, if he doesn't go out on loan, then we'll see him soon. One thing I did notice about Mikhail in this press conference, he looked really, really relaxed, and he had a big fat smile on his face for periods of the press conference. That's not something that you see every day from Mikel. He's usually quite stern, and he's usually quite emotionless. So it was interesting to see how relaxed he was. And obviously you'd expect that because of the run that we were coming from, and to get the 2 victories that we did, an amazing performance against Chelsea, a not so great performance against, who did we play? Brighton, but a good result nonetheless. We got the 3 points. The young players turned up in the second half. So, I don't want him to get carried away with these 2 results. It's a great thing. We've got 6 points out of 6. We're crawling up the table slowly but surely. It's not great where we are right now and where we've got ourselves. Obviously not, but you need to put everything into context. And considering the fact that we've got a brand new manager, considering the fact that we're in this current COVID situation, considering the fact that we didn't do the business that we wanted to do. Partially we did do the business that we wanted to do. Some things haven't worked out, Willian, but considering the facts, we knew that this transition period wasn't going to be easy. So I guess it's good to see that some things are falling into place one piece at a time. Although it's been really, really slow, I can see the parts coming together. But what I don't want to see is Arteta being too complacent, getting too comfortable, and just, going with the motions. It's really important that we're always focused. I mean, I remember the first interview that he did when he came into Arsenal, talking about non-negotiables, talking about changing the culture, bringing the values back into the club. And I really hope that he hasn't lost sight of those things, because I think the performances and those things go hand in hand. And unless you put those things into place in the background, you're not going to see that on the pitch. And I trust the process, and I trust Mikhail can do the right thing, because he has to know. Otherwise, those 2 years that he's spent, or however many years he's spent at City, would have been a complete waste. City are a perfect example as to how to get the culture and the values in the right place to then replicate the right results. So he must have some idea as to how to put these things into place, because we saw him under Pep, and we saw that documentary, and everything about that documentary screamed, culture, values, obviously talent as well, and money. But I think the first two are really, really important to get the understanding of what we're trying to do. Okay, I'm waffling. So let's move on to the predicted starting 11. So, press conference was good. Questions answered. Now we move on to the actual who's going to start, who's going to be at the forefront against West Brom. Look, one thing I can say about this game, it's going to be really, 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 really tough. It's going to be a hard game, and we are going to be up against it like we haven't been in the last two games. It will be a completely different game, in my opinion. I genuinely do see West Brom playing 11 men behind the ball, trying to frustrate the hell out of us, and playing on the counter. Allardyce is known to grind out results against the big dogs, and seeing as they got smashed by Leeds, this is probably one of the worst times to play them, because they will have their guard up. They will be expecting Arsenal to go at them. And so I think the worst thing that we can do going into this game is do what we did against Brighton in the first half, which is play a really cautious game, passing the ball around, slow tempo, and waiting for someone to slip up. The moment we start to do that is the moment we will invite them to come into the game and build their confidence up, which is the last thing that you want to do. So my predicted lineup, I would really, really, really appreciate if Arteta played a 4-2-3-1, just like we have been for the last two games. Obviously, the starting 11 that we saw against Brighton and the expectations we had against Brighton was obviously one that didn't live up to, because the 10 players who started against Chelsea started against Brighton. The 10 players who started against Chelsea had an amazing performance, but couldn't replicate that against Brighton. So it'll be interesting to see what the starting 11 will be like. But in goal, I'd have Bernd Leno, obviously. I would drop Bellerin and I would put Ainsley Maitland-Niles at right back. I think for this game, where you need ruthless energy and commitment going forwards and backwards, Bellerin struggled to do that against Brighton, and he was opened up. And I think that in our back four, he is the weak link, and West Brom will know that, and they will exploit that, just like Brighton did. And any mistakes from that side it's just too much of a big mistake to take, or too much of a risk to take, because if we're 1-0 down, I think that's it. I think it's too big of a hill to climb up. If you're 1-0 down against West Brom, and unless the players turn up and are 100% committed, I don't see it going very well. So Ainsley Maitland-Niles on the right-hand side. In the centre, I'll probably stay with Holding and Mari. Although do you know what? I would personally give Chambers a chance, but I mean, Holding and Mari have done a good job so far. I say good job with reluctancy because I think Holding has still been a little bit shaky. He has still shown signs of naivety, really, just not really. He's great in the air. He's fantastic as an aerial defender. He's brilliant. But what I can't trust him to do is to mark players, is to follow players' runs into the box and intercept. And you know, up until Callum Chambers got injured, he was doing really, really well. As a centre back, really solid, trustworthy, reliable, and I think the Chambers has always been a really good sort of decent defender, one that has shown a lot of potential to be great. But the one thing that's let him down is obviously his injuries. He's back now, so I would like to see that partnership of Chambers and Mari together. Mari has obviously proven in the last 2 games that he is reliable, he is solid, great again aerially, he's brilliant in the air, marking players and getting those tackles in. So I think what's expected is Holding to start with Mari, but again, I would like to see Chambers in there. Our midfield, our 2 centre midfields, which is our biggest liabilities in the team right now, is Xhaka and El Neni. I don't see us playing anyone else. I don't think Willock will start. There's a Party is a massive question mark. Personally, I wouldn't want to rush him back because the last thing you want is a repeat of what happened against Tottenham. So give him as much time as he needs to get back to full fitness. Okay, this is one of those games against West Brom where we need to be getting the 3 points, and it should be easy enough to get 3 points. So I don't see any problems with Arsenal's attacking force getting through their defensive line. I don't see it being a problem. What I see a problem is our midfield lacking the unity between Xhaka and Ceballos. Not Ceballos, sorry. Actually, we have Ceballos as well. Xhaka and El Neni having the partnership and the relationship in the middle to work together. That's something we have struggled to see, even between Ceballos and El Neni, and that's why I feel a bit reluctant to put Ceballos in the middle. Maybe it's Ceballos and Xhaka. Xhaka as a pivot. Ceballos as someone who drives the ball forward. I don't know, that might work. So maybe I would like to see Ceballos and Xhaka, but El Neni made too many mistakes last game, almost cost us a goal. You know, simple passes. If you're misplacing simple passes, that is a massive red flag for me. You should not be anywhere near the starting 11. So yeah, I guess I'd go for Xhaka and Ceballos for now. Emil Smith-Rowe needs to start, because the last 2 games he's been absolutely excellent, top form. The performance that he was putting in, especially against Brighton, throughout the whole game, he was the only guy I saw throughout the whole game who was putting 100% effort. Everyone else was sort of in second gear, but Smith-Rowe was just relentless. So I would like to see Smith-Rowe play in that number 10 role, and then the 3 up front I would go for is Aubameyang on the left, Lacazette in the middle, and Saka on the right. I don't want to see Pepe back on the pitch, and I really don't want to see Willian. I don't think Willian and Luiz are back yet. I think they still need to have. I think after this game they will be back, but Martinelli, I would put him on the bench and maybe bring him on. But what I saw of Martinelli last game is that he looked a bit deflated. He looked very tired, lethargic. Second half, he came alive. But the first half, again, he was just stuck in second gear. So I'll probably start him on the bench. I think the main important thing in this game is that every player that starts needs to give 100% from the very, very beginning of the game. Any less than that, you know, we're going to see the old Arsenal creeping back. And we don't want that, really, because, you know, we've seen time and time again when we slow down the tempo of a game, we allow teams to come back into the game, and then we're running around like headless chickens. Because as well as Arteta has done in strengthening our defensive aspect of the game, what he struggled to do is to maintain control. Maintain control of games. We're easily losing control of games, especially in the middle of the park. And so that brings me on to our transfers and what's going on. This has been a really bloody long video. It's almost 24 minutes. Wow. So I'm going to wrap it up quite quickly here. I don't think it's really important to talk about transfers just yet. It's the first day of the month. I think a lot of activities will be done sort of in the middle of the month. I'm really glad Kolasinac is his loan move has been completed before the actual market even opened, which is great. There are rumors that Socrates could be next out of the door to Fenerbahce. There's been talks of that happening. Ceballos could cut his loan short and move on as well, because he hasn't had the game time that was promised to him initially. I do expect players like Willock to go out on loan. There has been talks of Nelson going out on loan as well. Chambers could potentially go out on loan. The impression that I got from Arteta at the press conference was that a lot of players will be moved on in January. Whether it will be on loan or whether they'll be made permanent deals is something that we're yet to see. But what I can say is that we will see movement. And because, you know, he said it himself, we have too many players in certain positions, centre back, that we can't maintain, and we can't get that circulation going. We can't keep too many players within a certain position in the squad, and we can't promise game time, which is, you know, and the most irritating part of that is not seeing Saliba. And this is something which has been going on for long enough, and I don't really want to go into it right now because I do feel like this is far more complicated than fans have been made to believe it is. Whatever's going to happen to him, I really hope we do see him eventually in an Arsenal shirt playing in the first team, but I do believe that he will go out on loan as well. Players coming in, we definitely need to address the centre of the pitch. We need to bring in a central midfielder, and we need to bring in, in fact, I think we need to bring in two central midfielders, potentially an attacking midfielder as well. But then why would you bring in an attacking midfielder when you've got Mesut Ozil? Whatever's going on with Mesut Ozil is an absolute disgrace and makes us look like a bunch of amateurs. I mean, I don't really want to go into it because, you know, we could be here for another half an hour just talking about that alone. But I do see Arsenal bringing in a central midfielder. There are talks. We are being heavily linked to Isco. We're being linked to Brandt, Sabitzer today as well. All three players, in my opinion, I wouldn't want us to go ahead with those purchases. The reason why I say that is, yes, although they are great talents, I mean, the only player that I would be happy, or I would be willing to see at Arsenal, maybe on a loan deal, is Sabitzer. I think, and look, the reason why I say I'm quite reluctant to take any of those names in is because I want to see players with work rate. I understand that each of these individuals that I mentioned have bags full of talent, technically really, really, you know, amazingly gifted. But the reason, I think one of the main reasons why Ozil isn't in the squad is because of his work rate off the ball, and because of his work rate throughout the 90 minutes of a football match. I think more than talent, commitment, intensity is more important when you're playing in the Premier League, especially at a top club like Arsenal, and the youngsters have proven that hypothesis. Emil Smith-Rowe, Martinelli and Saka have come in the last two games and shown what's missing, and what's missing is an intense, relentless sort of commitment throughout 90 minutes of football. And one of the players that screams at me who we've been linked with in the last month, I'd say, is Emi Buendia from Norwich. Really, really intense commitment on and off the ball, and that's what's making Brighton tick. Basuma is another guy who is so good off the ball, makes Brighton look so comfortable in the middle of the park, just controls, and he has a sort of Abu Diaby-esque about him. One of my favourite players at Arsenal of all time has definitely got to be Abu Diaby. The guy oozed just quality off the ball, making incredible tackles in the middle of the park and allowing us to intersect and just run and break, and that's the type of player that we're missing. And I really hope, we haven't seen the most of Partey just yet, but I really hope Partey becomes that guy. And he obviously, that's his style of play, where he is that sort of, he plays in that central midfield pivot role where he picks up the ball, drives, releases, pings it over the top. He does it all. And so I really, really hope that we go out and get someone like that. Xhaka needs to be moved on. El Neni needs to be moved on. And yeah, we just need a complete revolutionized pairing in that middle. I'm going to end it there because I've been babbling on for 30 minutes. I thought this was going to be like a 10 to 15 minute video, but obviously I like to talk a lot, so it's now become a 30-minute video. Thank you very much if you have listened to this, or if you have watched this video throughout the whole duration. If you could please give us a like down below, subscribe to the channel, because obviously we want to grow, we want to connect with as many Arsenal fans as possible, and we will see you after Arsenal have hopefully battered West Brom. See you then.